Hello and welcome to the Post to Post podcast for this 25th of June 2017. I'm joined once again by Neil.
What's up?
And Justin.
Glad to be here.
And a special treat for the YouTube watchers or listeners this episode. We have a couple GoPros set up to record this in our nice mess in front of the table. But just something to make it a little more interesting for those on YouTube to watch. So we appreciate everyone who listens, no matter how you listen. So just a special treat for the YouTube viewers this time. So
heck yeah.
There was a lot that happened this week, guys.
There's so much that happened.
So this could be a little bit longer. This could be, we don't know. We'll just see how it goes. And because we're filming with video cameras, if we screw up, we just gotta go with it. Yep. So sometimes we edit out things and we fix things in post, and it sounds normal when it's done. And I can assure you, it's never normal. There's always screw ups. They're usually done by me, but we'll just go with this. And yeah. So what do you guys think of the week that just happened, just in general?
There's, I don't think an hour isn't long enough to talk about everything that happened. It's been crazy.
So much has happened, and actually a lot of unexpected things have happened. I mean, when I was reading different things going on, I was kind of blown away, and I really just didn't expect it. So it was very, very exciting from a hockey fan perspective.
Yeah, you see these rumor sites like Hockey Buzz and Spectres Hockey or whatever it is, and they're always talking about potential rumors of people going anywhere, and then we get broadsided by a couple trades that came out of nowhere that we had no idea about, like the Panarin trade, which we'll talk about eventually. It's been a crazy week.
And it's trades that we haven't seen in a long time, like big trades.
Yes.
Like, big trades haven't happened in the NHL in a while. It's just kind of a couple players being moved, but these are like big names that are out there.
Yeah, and I think right now it's a perfect storm with the Las Vegas Golden Knights coming in as a new franchise. You know, it's just an extra team. The draft just happened. There's so much going on right now. There's so much that needs done. I don't know if it'll ever be as exciting for trades as it is right now because...
Yeah, well, maybe the next expansion team.
Yeah, in a couple of years, maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, this is just kind of one of those rare years when you have an expansion team coming in, you got a lot of things going on that you normally wouldn't see.
Exactly.
And since there's a new franchise being born, there's a lot of opportunity for that franchise as well as the existing 30 franchises to maybe make themselves better. Use it to their advantage.
Exactly, well said.
So we had the NHL awards this week, and that was along the same time they did that, they announced the Vegas roster. Nobody's talking about the awards right now. They're all talking about the Vegas roster and the trades.
Yeah.
So I don't think we really need to get into the awards. The awards are what they are. I'm sure everyone that's listening knows who won what by now. Neil has a list of the trades and everything that went down. So why don't we jump into that? But I want to ask you guys a question first. Were you guys thrown off by the fact that the owner of the Vegas Knights was sitting at that table, like trying to get his hands in on it? Because we always talk about when you know who the owners is and the owners are getting their hands on things, it's usually a bad thing. And do you see this as being a situation where the owner may be a little bit too close to the team, or is he just kind of excited and he just wants to be there to get the ball rolling?
Yeah, I think it's still a little early to tell. You know, they're a brand new franchise, so obviously right now he's excited. He wants to be a part of everything until they get going, right? But hopefully once the season's underway and they get a few games under their belt, he kind of takes a back burner and just leaves, you know, the actual hockey guys do their job and keeps his hand out of the cookie jar, I guess would be a good way to put it. Because I always found when ownership kind of takes over from behind the curtain, I find bad things can happen to franchises because they come in from a business perspective. You know, they want a franchise to make money. That's what they want. But that kind of overshadows what's going on in the ice because from the front office point of view, they're in it to win. Right? That's their goal. That's their job role. So it's completely different from the ownership to the front office. But obviously, from ownership perspective, you want to win as well. But to me, your first priority is making money.
Yeah, and sometimes they're even a bit too emotionally invested in their team. Kind of like, big time. I feel like Buffalo's in that situation.
Yes.
Apologies, I don't know the names of the owners. But
the Pagulas or Terry Pagula,
yeah.
His wife, I think that's the name of it.
It starts with a P.
They like to stick their hand in the cookie jar a lot.
That's a big problem in Buffalo. Yeah. I've said it before too. You know, I really wish that ownership group would take a back seat and just stop meddling. And I think until that happens, their organization is taking a step back, in my opinion.
I know that you didn't watch the award show, or if you just saw some highlights. Did you watch it, Jason?
I've just seen some highlights as well.
Did you see when Bill Foley screwed up?
No.
His draft order?
No.
He was supposed to draft or announced a pick from Detroit, and he announced Dallas
way.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was embarrassing, but
wow.
It was the perfect example of why he shouldn't have been on the stage.
And when he was first getting the team ready, like he said, like, we're going to be competitive right out the gate. We're going to win a cup in 5 or 7 years or something like that. And everyone just kept saying that. That's not how this works. Like, you're not going to have a competitive team right out the gate. You need to build for the future right away.
Yeah.
And that's what George McPhee has done, really. He's all those draft picks he picked 100%. Up and stuff. So I think George McPhee did exactly what he needed to do.
Yep. No, I fully agree. That's the stance they needed to take from day one, solidify their future. And they really did that.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on some of the choices that they've made so far, but they have an overwhelming amount of draft picks to use over the next 5 years. Yeah. So it's,
big time.
Kudos to them, to steal your word.
How much of the team that they have right now do you think we'll see on day one of the next season, or do you think there's still going to be quite a bit of movement, people coming and people going?
There really could be, because don't forget we got free agency coming up on July 1st, and I see Vegas potentially targeting somebody, in my opinion. Whether that's a veteran blue liner, somebody up front, I really think they're going to target somebody.
Yeah, and as of this morning, there's even rumors that Mathot might be flipped, and Emelin as well.
Yeah.
So there could be huge changes.
Like I think Mathot's no trade list included all of the Canadian teams, if I read that correctly, and I think he can go back to Ottawa, but he can't go back to Ottawa until the 1st of January of next year. I think
really?
I read that, yeah. So
Marc Bergevin from Montreal actually spoke with Mathot and tried to get him to waive his no trade clause.
Really?
To go to Montreal, and he declined.
Wow.
I assume just because, same division, his heart's in Ottawa probably, right. So he doesn't want to play for a non-Ottawa rival. So
it's kind of sad to see him go from Ottawa because he did so well there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, with that memorable playoff run this year, Mathot was a big factor in that once he returned and whatnot.
And this is just kind of an Easter egg to people who have seen the lookalikes video. I like Marc Mathot just because he looks like our friend Chris Wilkinson.
He does, yeah.
If you've seen that video, we have a friend, and Marc Mathot, it was probably the closest lookalike in that whole video. So
man, that was scary.
Like that's my connection to Marc Mathot now, is our friend Chris Wilkinson.
Yeah, so
Prince Edward Island.
if you guys don't, or if you guys haven't seen that video, it's on the channel. Definitely go check it out. It's pretty remarkable how much they look alike.
Scary.
So based on the lineup they have right now, if they played the first game with what they have, what kind of team are they? Are they 500 team? Are they under 500 team?
I don't think they would be a playoff team yet. Obviously, no. A lot of these guys haven't played together, so it's going to take a while to gel with their new teammates, as well as, the system that they're looking to bring to the ice. I think they will be not in the bottom 5 in the league, but I'd probably put them in the bottom 10 in the league.
They might be pushing at the playoffs. They could get close.
I'd be in shock.
Best case scenario, they could get close to making the playoffs. I think if we look back at all the expansion teams of the last 25 or 30 years, they probably will do better than any previous expansion team based on their lineup. I don't think they're going to be in the bottom 5. So
you don't see them doing as bad as Colorado did this year.
No. Like when Ottawa came into the league in '92, I think they did terrible. Same was Tampa and Florida. All those expansion teams just completely bombed. I think Las Vegas might surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, they had kind of an embarrassment of riches to choose from in the expansion draft. There's a lot of big names on there, and to me, I thought they built a stellar lineup and they covered all the areas. There are some veterans, there are a lot of younger guys, and they do have some speedy forwards, and they have some more defensive-minded forwards. I thought they did a stellar job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're a Vegas season ticket holder, you know that you need patience. Like, this is a product that's going to take time, and you're part of that. If you're just the casual Vegas fan who buys the tickets, is the team they have right now enough to be enjoyable to go to a majority of the games, or do you think it's more of a, we need to, like, how do you think the fans in Vegas will accept that team outside of the season ticket holders? Like, just the non-hockey fans who are just saying, oh, we have a team and let's go see what they do. And if they're not competitive, how do you think the city will react to that?
To me, it still remains to be seen. I personally still don't view Las Vegas as a hockey market. I mean, that's just me. But then again, they could probably sell out just based on vacationing Canadians and Americans who live more up north to the northern states.
The Florida effect. Yeah,
the Florida effect. I mean, they could probably sell out every game just based on vacationing hockey fans in Vegas. It's a big tourist area, so there's going to be a lot of people in the city at all times from all aspects of the U.S., Canada, and maybe even overseas as well. So it really remains to be seen. I think they'll really embrace it early on. But I think a lot of it's going to come down to how competitive that team is in order to hold that fan base and keep them interested for the long haul. I think that's going to be a big part of it.
Yeah, and definitely, I mean, at the beginning, when I first started to play these teams like Pittsburgh with the Crosbys and Washington with the Ovechkins, people are going to come to see Vegas play those teams because, you know, they want to see superstars. They might not be huge hockey fans, but the opportunity to see those big names come to town will be a huge draw as well. So that'll be something that will be in effect for probably the first half of the season. Once all those guys come, and it'll probably trail off. People will care less and less.
Yeah. What do you think about Fleury going there? Like, and how do you think Crosby's reaction to that is? Because you kind of seen him at the award show when he was brought out on the stage, and Crosby wasn't like happy, but he had the somber look on his face, like this is someone he's played with for a long time.
Yep.
So, like, how do you, like, as a Pittsburgh fan, what's your thoughts on that, or how do you think Crosby's reaction is?
Well, Fleury's been there since 2003. He was taken first overall in 2003, so he's been there a very, very long time. He's a very heart and soul, team first oriented type of player. Because with the emergence of Matt Murray, Fleury hasn't really played a lot, in the last 2 seasons. Yeah, he's gotten his games in, but not like the previous years when he was the guy in Pittsburgh. And it didn't really faze him. He never really showed signs that it bothered him that somebody had come in and taken over his number one position. He was able to just kind of push that aside and focus on the success of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And he was a big part of their cup run this year, because when Matt Murray went down, basically before the playoffs even started, he stepped in and he carried that team through Washington. That one just pops to mind right away. I mean, he shut out the Washington Capitals in Game 7 of that series for Pittsburgh to go on and face the Ottawa Senators in the Eastern Conference Final. So without Marc-Andre Fleury, they wouldn't have won a cup this year. So he was a big part of it. And you saw as well when they won the cup and they're celebrating on the ice, who did Marc-Andre Fleury give that cup to? Who did he seek out in the crowd? Matt Murray. I mean, that speaks volumes. He's a very humble, mature guy, team-oriented, and what he did with the cup and handing it to Matt Murray just really proved all that. He's really going to be missed. And just the other week, he installed a new playground in...
I saw that.
Geez, I can't recall if it was a school or a type of children's hospital or something, but he donated all the money necessary in order to build that playground for the children in the city of Pittsburgh. So he's done a lot in and around Pittsburgh as well. He's done so much for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He'll be sadly missed, and I think he'll be a Pittsburgh Penguin forever at heart.
It was just like, 2 weeks ago that Pittsburgh won the Stanley Cup, and then we saw him on stage in a Las Vegas Golden Knights uniform. That's got to be strange, being him celebrating a cup win. He's going to get his day with the cup to celebrate this summer, and he's already part of a new team. That's got to be strange.
Yeah, and it also freed up $5.5 million in cap for the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's huge. I mean, they had a lot of guys brought in for this cup run as well, and there's a lot of guys that are going to be free agents, and this extra cap space will allow them to sign some of these key components.
Why do you think they had to throw in a draft pick in order for Vegas to take him as well?
Who knows? Was
George McPhee kind of telling them, well, I might take these goalies, and Pittsburgh really wanted to dump that salary? So do you think he was just those negotiating tactics? Is maybe he was going to take them all along, but he said, if you throw in a draft pick, I'll take them?
Well, it could have been.
It seems like he's a pretty good goalie that wouldn't need that draft pick associated with it. He's just... you don't protect him, and he seems like, because we were talking about a few podcasts ago, we thought he was going.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, he almost went at the trade deadline. He was, within probably an hour or two away, maybe, from going. I know Rutherford said in a lot of interviews that potentially dealing Marc-Andre Fleury at the trade deadline was something he was seriously considering, because he felt that they were a little weak on the blue line, especially with the Chris Letang injury. He felt that they needed to do something in order to solidify themselves for another cup run. And the way he looked at it is, okay, with the emergence of Matt Murray, I think Fleury could go. We could free up that $5.5 million in cap, and we could bring in the assets we need in order to secure another cup run. So he was very close to being dealt at the trade deadline. But since he didn't deal him at the trade deadline, I bet you he's thinking that's the best decision I've ever made in my GM career, because keeping Fleury and Murray, they rhyme, it basically brought them right back to the Stanley Cup.
So you're a Pittsburgh fan, so this may be a little bit of a biased question, and you don't have the list in front of you, so this might not be fair either, but if you were the GM, if you were George McPhee, is Fleury who you would have taken out of all the goalies that were available, or would you have looked at other things too.
Oh, I would have taken him without question. I mean, he's won 3 Stanley Cups with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He was, in my opinion, the biggest reason next to Malkin, because Malkin won the Conn Smythe in 2009. That's the reason why they won the cup against Detroit in 2009. Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, look at that sprawling save on Nick Lidstrom with 3 seconds left on the clock to keep that score 2-1 and for them to win their first cups since the early 90s. He was a big reason. He's a very experienced guy. He's a very almost star-oriented guy. You know, he's the type of guy who doesn't back away from the spotlight as well. And I think he's going to be an amazing spokesperson to really get that Las Vegas franchise launched and out to the masses in the area. I think he's going to be a great centerpiece to do that.
I don't know if you guys seen the picture of Malkin on Twitter the night of he was standing with a jersey on saying "My MVP" and had Fleury's number on with all the trophies in the back. I thought that was pretty nice of him to do.
Yeah, I mean, they really liked the guy. He was a prankster as well in the dressing room. You know, he'd pull pranks on all the boys. You know, sometimes they'd be doing interviews and he'd kind of crawl up so that they couldn't see him amongst, you know, the mass of reporters, and he'd tie their skate laces together, stuff like that. You know, he was always having fun. And I think that's something he'll bring to the Las Vegas franchise. And I think that's another reason why they probably targeted him as well, because they knew that they could start to build around him, given his experience, and they could use him as their main spokesperson. And I think he's really going to be their main spokesperson when their franchise hits the ice.
Yeah, I kind of got that impression, just the way he was in so many photos over the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
This week. And I really think that he is basically, as of now, the face of the Vegas Knights.
Yeah, him next to James Neal, I think, are going to be the two faces of Las Vegas.
Who have played together in Pittsburgh before.
They have.
And who did... Oh, I thought that... Yeah, this is unrelated, but the Trevor Van Riemsdyk trade to Carolina. Scott Darling also went to Carolina. 2 players who've played together before, so... It'd be interesting to see that in Carolina. Sorry, that was completely off topic.
That's all right.
That's what it made me think of.
The last thing I'll wrap up with the Fleury conversation is he's taken a lot of criticism for playoff performances where he's done poorly, but he seems to handle it very well.
Oh, yeah.
So,
he does.
like, I agree with you guys completely where I think that if you put this face as your franchise, and even Pittsburgh had a little flower next to their Twitter handle after he was traded. So I think he is a guy that's well liked in the league.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I actually see him kind of doing a 180 and going back to Pittsburgh in some capacity. Maybe not as an actual player, but, you know, maybe when his career wraps up. Because, I mean, given his age, you know, probably 6 years, maybe 7 years, he'd probably be wrapping it up. But I see him going back to Pittsburgh, kind of like a Sergei Gonchar, who works with the defense core there. I see him going back in some capacity.
Could be a goalie coach or
something.
Yeah. Has he done enough, in your opinion, to be someone that would be honored by the organization, or not quite? Like, Crosby will be honored, obviously. His jersey will be hung. Has Fleury done enough, or not quite?
That one would be really up to debate. I know myself, following the Pittsburgh Penguins that I do, I feel that he has. I mean, you know, he was there for the 3 cup runs. He's just done so much in and around Pittsburgh as well. And he's a big reason why they've had success over the last few years. I mean, yeah, he did have some terrible playoff performances, but he was able to bounce back. And I think he's really kind of pushed those demons aside over the last year, because his performance in the playoffs this year was stellar. I mean, I would have no complaints over his performance this year. He did amazing.
Okay, so Neil has a list of some trades that happened.
I do. There's so much has happened over the past couple of days. I've made a chronological list of, I think it's completely chronologically right, but we're going to go through it, starting with the Edmonton and the Islanders trade. So Edmonton trades Eberle to the Islanders in exchange for Ryan Strome. We talked about some of these briefly in the video that we just did the other day, but let's just talk about it again. I personally think it was a fair trade on both sides. I think Strome's going to be great in Edmonton, and I think Eberle could be great for the Islanders. Yeah,
I think there's still an upside on Strome. I think he can develop, you know, into a great player over the next several years. And with the Islanders going after Eberle, to me, it's almost kind of a risk or reward. You know, Eberle could kind of rejuvenate his career. Sometimes a change of atmosphere is all the player needs. He had 51 points this year at $6 million. To me, he was drastically overpaid for what they got out of him in Edmonton. So at the same time, they're probably smiling because they've just dumped that salary.
Oh, yeah. I think they've been trying to do that for a while. I mean, he's been in the rumors the past couple of years, so... Any thoughts on... Nope. No. So Carolina, moving on, they sent a second-round pick to Las Vegas Golden Knights for Trevor Van Riemsdyk. So I kind of mentioned this before about Trevor Van Riemsdyk playing with Scott Darling. So Carolina could be a bit of a competitive, scary team in the next couple of years. I like this trade.
Yeah, there's some good things going on in Carolina. And if you're a Carolina fan, I would be very excited for the next several years and maybe even beyond. To me, their organization is making some interesting maneuvers in order to solidify their future. So no, I don't really have any negative things to say about this one. I like it, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the last podcast or the one before when we were projecting what teams would make the playoffs next year and which ones would fall out. Carolina was one of them that we agreed that could surprise people and jump up. And I think Carolina is not getting the credit they deserve, really, because they're very similar to Toronto with a bunch of young, up-and-coming, like, these players are going to be very good. They're going to have a good team, and I feel like the coverage for them, maybe it's just because we're in Canada, like, I don't know what it's like in the States, but you don't really hear a lot of Carolina up here, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing them next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they did stellar to close out their season this year.
They almost made it.
Yeah, they almost made it. I mean, they were almost unbeatable the last month of the regular season. They were playing incredible hockey. If they carry that into next season, they're making the playoffs.
Well said. All right, moving on to the third trade. So we have Montreal sending out a 5th-round pick to Las Vegas Golden Knights for Schlemko. So this trade, we talked about this on the video, but this is a confusing trade to me. I don't understand how he's only worth a 5th-round pick. I would have probably given a 3rd, but I don't know. I think Montreal won this trade. I'm a Montreal fan, so I don't want to sound biased, but as my unbiased opinion, I still think they won this trade.
Yeah, because I said in the video that we did right away, I said a 5th-round pick.
Yeah.
Like, really? Jeez, I thought the guy would have had a little more worth than that.
Yeah.
Maybe even a 3rd. But again, I'm not the biggest Montreal fan in any way. So whatever Montreal does, yeah, I pay attention to it, but I don't overanalyze it because the last thing I want is to see Montreal competitive.
Yeah. And I mean, I understand it because Las Vegas, they're looking for picks. They want to grow their team. So I understand it. And they have an abundance of defensemen right now and an abundance of cap. So they need to get rid of that and get rid of a few defensemen. So I understand it. I just think they probably could have got more for it. Yep. All right, moving on to when the crap hit the fan. Chicago started their rampage. They traded Yarmelson to Arizona for Connor Murphy and Laurent Dupin. I don't know. I'm so bad with names. Douphin or I don't know.
Dufin, maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
I'm not sure.
Anyways,
actually.
What's your thoughts on that trade?
Well, that one actually surprised me because Hjalmarsson to me was probably their best shot blocking defenseman. So, man, I was really in shock. And for a while I was scratching my head and I kept asking myself, what the hell is Chicago doing?
Yeah.
Like, my goodness. But I think maybe a lot of it was because of the insane scare they got from the Nashville Predators in the first round.
Could be.
And I think they instantly thought, hey, wait a minute, we got a few loopholes here. We need to address this. So I think with everything going on with the expansion draft and whatnot, they were trying to take advantage of the situation.
Yeah.
But if it were up to me, Hjalmarsson, he would have been staying.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not a fan of this one at all.
All right, and shortly after that, Chicago made another trade. They gave up Panarin and is it Mott or Moat and a 2017 6th-round pick, and they sent those to Columbus for Saad and Anton Forsberg and a 2018 5th-round pick. This was a blockbuster.
Yeah, it was to me.
There are a lot of Chicago fans not happy with this trade.
And didn't you tell me something earlier about this?
Joe Quenneville apparently was seen walking out of the draft meeting, getting in a taxi and leaving right in the middle of it.
There you go.
So that's all we can say. That is a report. It's out there. It's confirmed. We don't know if he's not happy with what happened. We can speculate. Like, that's all anyone can do. Nobody knows unless you ask the man. But it's the way I look at it, he's not happy with what's happening.
I don't know how he could be. I mean, there are so many Chicago fans commenting on the video yesterday.
Yeah.
Unhappy. They were not pleased. Like, what is Stan Bowman doing? He's going crazy. He's blowing up this team. Because we made a video about this a couple months ago. Like, what's wrong with the Chicago Blackhawks? And we discussed not too many changes need to be made. If any changes needed to be made, maybe it was management or coaching staff or something like that. We played around with the idea, but as far as the structure of the team, not too many trades needed to be made, and especially not Panarin, who I think was a guy who is part of your future.
Yeah,
And
big time.
I think, was it you that said he took a hometown discount?
He took a little bit of a discount, and he took kind of like one of those PK Subban bridge deals. It wasn't as low as PK's was because he just signed the 1 year really low. So, but it was a lower discount with a lower term in order to get paid more later down the road. So the people who are for this trade are just saying that Chicago can't afford him long term, and that's why they're happy with it. But right now they can kind of, like, even with this trade, they're still over the cap as of the time we're typing this right now. So they still have to get rid of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Like,
and we've talked about how good Stan Bowman has done.
Yes.
Like videos and like,
Yep.
like he keeps his core. He flips a couple people, pulls people. Like, we didn't even know who Panarin was, and then you put him on Kane's line, and all of a sudden everybody knows who Panarin is. And now this big trade happens.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying, well, Panarin was just, successful because of who he was associated with and who he was playing with on his line. And a lot of people said, well, if you moved him off that line and you put him on a different line with no Patrick Kane, would he still have the same success? It's an interesting question that's up for debate. Has he proven himself to be successful without a bona fide superstar like Patrick Kane playing on his line?
Same could be said for Anisimov as well in Chicago. So.
Yeah, big time. But I mean, if you look at Jarmelson, Panarin, and now with the Hossa situation and Hossa gone next year, Chicago Blackhawks are going to be a completely different team on the ice next year.
Yeah, they got Sod back.
Sod's back. Yeah.
I mean, I think that was a part of Kane and Taves doing. I think
There's
they
reports on
requested
Twitter that they highly suggested they'd like him.
they
to come
highly
back.
suggested, yeah. And Anton Forsberg, so they got another player back. So it wasn't like a total loss, but still a confusing one for sure.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of, we want a little more grit in our lineup. And I think maybe that was exposed during that Nashville series. And I think it was a big wake-up call that, hey, wait a minute, maybe we need a little more grit in our lineup. And I think that's what they were trying to do here. But unfortunately, man, Panarin, I wouldn't have sent that guy anywhere after what I've seen from him.
I want to ask Justin something real quick before we move on, because he wasn't here for the last couple.
Yeah.
Do you think Chicago's in trouble by having $21 million wrapped up in two players? And we had the debate about Jonathan Taves a few times now, I think.
Yeah.
They say he's overpaid for the numbers you get out of him. Like, he's a great leader and all this stuff, but in terms of what he gives you, Chicago fans are saying that he's overpaid and it's hurting them because the cap's actually coming back down. So do you think they're kind of get their hands tied with that and he's just trying to figure out ways around it, or like?
Well, here's an interesting question. Do you think Jonathan Taves is worth more money than Alex Ovechkin? Do you think Jonathan Taves is worth more money than Sidney Crosby?
But we know Sidney Crosby took a big discount
he did.
for that organization.
And he's an insanely superstitious guy. He wanted 8.7. That 87 number, my goodness, that follows him his whole life. But when you look at it from, say, an output perspective, okay, this is what Jonathan Taves is putting up number-wise every year. This is what Ovechkin and Crosby or even a Stamkos is putting up every year. Of course, when Stamkos is there and he's healthy, to me, the money doesn't really coincide with the numbers. To me, I think Jonathan Taves is overpaid.
I think he's overpaid a little bit, but I mean, they won 3 Stanley Cups.
Yeah, they did.
You got to reward them a little bit. I do think he's overpaid, but you still have to reward them. I mean, if I'm a Chicago Blackhawks fan, I'm still pretty happy my team just won 3 Stanley Cups.
Yeah, so. I'm more lenient toward Patrick Kane making that kind of money. Jonathan Taves, if they were able to take off $2.5 million off of that, I think I'd be a lot more satisfied with it. Yeah. 2.5 off that salary, I think, would be a lot better number, given what he brings. But to me, they look at him as their franchise, their centerpiece, their captain, and they want to keep him around. Obviously,
it's kind of like the Kopitar situation. I think he makes $11 million. And again, he won 2 cups for the Los Angeles franchise, but still, I think he's a little overpaid for sure. Again, that 2 to 3 million number.
That could be a good video. Who do we think is overpaid?
Yeah, actually, it's been suggested a few times. Yep. The most overpaid contracts. Yeah.
See, one thing GMs have to be careful about is not paying people for past performance. You have to kind of project what you're going to get out of them and pay them for what's coming. Yep. So, I'm not sure. Did they have their new contracts in when they won their last cup, Chicago, or was that after their last cup?
And it was either right before or right after their second cup. I'm almost positive.
Okay, so they haven't won a cup since they've got.
They have won one cup.
They've won one
since.
Okay,
at least.
So in the end, if you looking back like years down the road, you may look back and say that he paid them for their past performance and kind of screwed the future by doing that.
Well, it's hard. It's really hard to keep, a constantly competitive team that can chase a cup, potentially go on that deep playoff run when you have that much money tied up in just 2 players.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
I still think they're going to be competitive, though.
Oh, yeah, I really think so.
Yeah.
I think Chicago's going to turn it around. I mean, yeah, it was a shock to the Chicago fan base, the franchise, the hockey world that Nashville took them out 4 straight in the first round. I did not predict that in a million years.
There's still people commenting on that video, saying, quoting you, saying that Chicago will not be beaten by Nashville.
Oh, come on. I'm in the majority. Majority of the people would not have predicted Nashville to beat Chicago 4 straight in the first round. Come on.
Yeah.
Who the hell would have predicted that?
Yeah.
My goodness.
Do you think that was a team composition issue, or do you think it was more fluky? Like the run that Boston had in the past where they swept Pittsburgh 4-0, nobody would have predicted that either. And I think if you would have replayed that series 2 weeks later, I think it would have been a lot different of an outcome. So do you think that's just kind of how the dominoes fall sometimes, or do you think Nashville was significantly better than Chicago?
Well, I said in the video that we did about this, what's wrong with the Chicago Blackhawks, I said it was due to Chicago having the same system on the ice for basically a decade. I think Nashville really did their homework, and they knew that if they could get through Chicago, they could come out of the West. I think that was their mindset, and they probably studied tape till they were blue in the face, and they knew exactly how to beat the Chicago Blackhawks. It was basically like they put on a clinic and they beat them at their own game. They beat them to every loose puck, and they knew what Chicago was going to do before Chicago even did it. And that's why I said maybe this is the time where Chicago may look at Quenneville and say, hey, maybe it's time for a change here, because maybe teams have totally figured us out because we've had the exact same system on the ice for a decade.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of Chicago underperforming a little bit, and then a lot of Nashville maybe overperforming a little bit. So just 2 storms collided there.
Yeah, I think Chicago underestimated them completely.
Yeah.
I know I did.
Absolutely.
And I'll admit that. I completely underestimated Nashville.
I think everyone did at first, yeah.
But it was so exciting to see them go all the way to the Cup final. I mean, what a ride that was.
Yeah.
It was kind of like Ottawa in the same way. Like, just nobody expected Ottawa to win the series they were in, and they just kept going and going. And I think it was the same on both sides, really.
Yeah, I think myself, you, and my father all predicted Boston to beat Ottawa in that first round. I don't remember what your prediction was, or even if you made one.
I thought that Boston was going to lose.
Oh, yeah?
In 7, yeah.
You're probably overcritical of your team, just
that's because
I am with Montreal.
We had a lot of injuries, and I just didn't think it was going to happen. But when it happened, I was kind of surprised, to be honest.
Yeah. All right, let's move on, shall we? Let's talk about the New York Rangers and Arizona trade. So the Rangers sent out, is it Stepan or
Stepan?
I
believe.
Then, Antti or Ranta, however you want to pronounce it, I don't care. And then they got back from Arizona, D'Angelo, 2017 7th overall pick. So I don't really know what to think about this. I feel like Arizona actually won this trade for sure, and I don't really know what the Rangers were thinking.
I'm not sure either. Glenn Sather does some stupid shit.
Yeah,
that's the only way I can, fully explain it. And to me, Arizona is going to be 10 times the team next year based on what they've done in the last couple days, really. To me, they clearly won this one. I'm a big fan of Stepan, and I'm a big fan of Ranta as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ranta's, I hope he gets to start. Now that Mike Smith is gone from Arizona, I hope that Antti Ranta gets the starting position. He deserves it because he played great in New York when he had the opportunity.
Yep. And
he'll be good in Arizona as well. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see Arizona. They made some big changes with Doan going out and the coach change. Yep. And now with a few players coming in, it's going to be interesting.
Well, they've piqued my interest. I know I'm going to be paying a lot more attention to Arizona this year.
I think I will too, yeah.
Given the changes that they've made. I think they're making all the right changes, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're finally maybe trending in the right direction.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the St. Louis and Philadelphia trades. So St. Louis sent out Laterra, 27th pick, and a 2018 conditional first-round pick to Philadelphia in exchange for Braden Shen. This would kind of shock me as well.
This one really shocked me because Braden Shen has had a lot of success for the Philadelphia Flyers. Yeah. And to me, he was, a real key component for them moving forward. I mean, he's still not a very old player by any means. He's still got so many years ahead of him, and prime years, in my opinion. I didn't understand this one at all, but to me, I think it was due to the trade that was coming between St. Louis and Pittsburgh, which I'm sure we'll talk about very shortly. I think it was to kind of counteract that a little bit. in my opinion. But to me, there's huge upside to Braden Shen.
Oh, I think St.
Love
Louis
that
won
guy.
this trade for sure, and
Yeah.
it fills a lot of holes that they had. I mean, they had Shattenkirk leave, and they have a few contract situations that they need to figure out. Braden Shen, I think he's going to fit really, really well in St. Louis. I think it's a brilliant trade.
Yeah, he's a hard-nosed player.
Yeah.
You know, I always respect players like that. A guy that can score a goal and a guy that can mix it up as well.
Yeah, he can hit, he'll fight, he'll do everything. So, all right, moving on to the Pittsburgh St. Louis trade. I know you're just dying to talk about this.
Yes,
so
I
Pittsburgh
am.
sent out a 31st overall pick with Sundqvist, and they got in return from St. Louis Ryan Reeves and a 51st overall.
Yeah,
pick.
51st, yeah. To me, there was some upside to Sundqvist because I had kept an eye on him during his developmental time. And I think in the next several years, he could have been a very effective player.
How old is he?
Oh, geez. He would only be in his early 20s.
Okay, because I've literally never heard of him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no, off the top of my head, I wouldn't know his exact age by any means, but no, he's not up there. That's for sure. But yeah, for Reeves to come in, to me, this was the answer to something that really went on a lot in the playoffs, and teams were really taking their shots at Pittsburgh's top talent, Malkin and Crosby, Kessel, and so on. They felt that they needed to bring in somebody that could really answer back to that and say, okay, if you're going to take a cheap shot at our superstars, you're going to pay for that. And I think that's why they targeted this guy, because that's exactly what he does.
Yep.
But if you look at Pittsburgh over the last 2 years, how did they win two Stanley Cups? Speed, talent, and more speed. Does this guy come in and scream, I'm talented, I have speed, and more speed? No.
It's
he doesn't.
Kind of a strange acquisition.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like it to say, okay, they're bringing in somebody, they're bringing in some muscle to help protect their star players, but then at the same time, I think to myself, well, if they put this guy in the lineup, who the hell's coming out of the lineup? Because if he goes in, someone has to come out. And to me, that's a big concern. Because if I'm even looking at Pittsburgh's fourth line, there's not one guy I want to take out of the lineup.
Yeah, and when I look at Ryan Reeves, I don't really see a player that, like, if I could pick him to go to any team that he probably wouldn't fit in on, Pittsburgh would be the team. So
Yeah, I think it shocked a lot of people. But at the same time, Pittsburgh does have a lot of depth. They have a lot of great, developmental players. They could afford to get rid of a guy like Sundqvist. They really could. And I think bringing in Ryan Reeves is just going to, add that depth factor when they feel that, okay, some guys have been taking liberties at our superstars. We can inject this guy into our lineup in order to counteract that.
Yeah.
I think that's what the end goal was.
Absolutely. Okay, that ends up the chronological order of the trades. Now let's do starting the chronological order of the news, I guess. So first, Arizona fires Tippett. We talked about this in the video. Don't know if you have anything to say on this, but I mean, it wasn't really a shock because Arizona. We just kind of talked about it, but they needed to make some changes. They needed to trend in a different direction. Even though I like Tippett, I was okay with this decision.
Yeah, I mean, he was the second longest tenured coach, I believe.
Since 2009,
Yeah, since 2009. And then, with Doan now on the outside looking in, towards Arizona, I think Tippett was the next guy that had to go. Arizona's really shaking things up. I mean, look at the trades that they've made. And to me, it was just time, in order to bring in somebody new, take control of that bench and, put a new system out there with the new guys that are coming into their lineup. That's absolutely no knock on him as a coach. He's incredible. And I think he's going to be gobbled up by another organization in no time. But I think it was the right thing to do.
Well, this is a great segue because in the video I said I felt like he would maybe go to the East Coast and maybe be an assistant coach. For some reason, I was thinking Florida. And then within an hour after that, Florida announced the next on my list that they've hired Jack Capuano as their new assistant coach. What's your thoughts on this?
Wow, no, I think that's a great move, actually. And to be honest, that's the first I heard of it.
Really?
How the hell did I miss that?
I don't know.
Like, really, how did I miss that? No, to be honest, I'm not even sure what to say because I'm just finding out right now.
Boom. Well,
no, that's very exciting.
So
that's good for them.
As we know, he was fired he was literally fired from the Islanders. They didn't part ways. He was fired. Doug Weight took over. So, I mean, Jack Capuano is a very good coach. Mm-hmm. I think he might fit in well with Florida. We'll see. But I'm okay with this for now.
Yeah, I think he will. I mean, I really like the guy.
All right, moving on to the next news. TJ Oshie signs with Washington for $46 million over 8 years. This is a blockbuster. What's your thoughts?
I think this was absolutely crucial for the Washington Capitals.
Yep.
If they want to remain a competitive team and, potentially get over that hurdle finally of getting through the second round of the playoffs, TJ Oshie is the guy that's going to help them do it. He's been so successful with the Washington Capitals, it's almost scary because I think he gets better every year he plays there.
Yep.
And man, did I hate that guy in the Washington-Pittsburgh series. I kept cursing that TJ Oshie. And it was just based out of respect because that's how good of a player he is and how effective he is at his role. He can score a goal. He can agitate. He's not the type of guy that's going to drop the gloves and fight anybody, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But man, he is great at getting teams off their game. I have nothing but absolute respect for TJ Oshie, and I'm very happy that Washington was able to make this work because he is a key component if they're going to be doing anything in the next few years.
Yeah, well said. I think if you're a Washington Capitals fan, you probably looked at the team and said, okay, the number one thing they need to do in the offseason is sign TJ Oshie. Yep. And they did that early now. So that's great for the Washington Capitals fans and the organization. And TJ Oshie as well, he gets to settle down into a spot. He's still a young guy, so maybe he has kids on the way or a wife, or I don't know his situation, but his upbringing will be in Washington, looks like for a while, yeah.
Yeah, you could tell he really wanted to stay there too.
Yeah.
I mean, after the contract went down, I mean, he hit Twitter right away and he was tweeting about this. You could tell he was ecstatic to stay with the Washington Capitals. To me, he's played the best hockey of his career in Washington.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
So that's a 5.75 cap it, I think, somewhere around there.
Which is a brilliant number, I think, for TJ Oshie.
For what he gives you right now, he's underpaid.
Mm-hmm.
In 8 years from now or 7 years from now, you may be looking at it saying we're paying $6 million for a guy who's getting near 40, and
8 years is a long time.
So
it is.
Obviously this is a signing saying we're going for it now, and we're hoping he can get us there. And so I think this is a good signing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think people may look, in 6 years' time saying, wow, we're paying this guy almost $6 million a year, but they're going to look back at the last 4 or 5 years and saying, no, that money was well spent.
It's. Do you think he took a discount a little bit to stay with Washington?
No. I really think that's.
I think he made it
number.
on term. I think he made it on term.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fair number, and to me, I think he really wanted to stay there. So if he did take a discount, if there's any franchise he would do it for, I think it would be the Washington Capitals, because I think he even knows that playing in Washington has basically made his career, in my opinion. He's played amazing hockey for Washington.
No, I don't know any more details on the contract, but do you know if there's a no trade clause?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know that.
Do you know?
Off the top of my head, no.
Don't know. I'd be surprised if there wasn't, but who knows? Okay, moving on. I don't even know if this is official yet, but Chris Russell signs for 4 million years. Or
4 million years?
4 million years.
Oh my.
Well,
who did that deal?
Epic. Okay, he signed for $4 per year for 4 years. Wow, that was amazing. What's your thoughts?
I thought this was official, actually. I recall reading about this last night. No, to me, I think it was a good signing. I think maybe some people could argue about the $4 million per year, maybe. I don't think it's a bad signing. Could it have been a little better? Maybe, but no, I wouldn't argue this one too much.
I think 4 years I think $4 million was too high. I would have liked to see around 2.5 maybe. I think he was overpaid here, but if we'll see in the future if it works out for them. But yeah, 400 million years, yeah, or four. What did I say earlier?
4 million years.
4 million years? Unbelievable. All right, the Hossa situation. Let's talk about this because this is a very interesting topic. He's got a skin condition that he's been taking medication for, and it's no longer working as effectively as it used to when he first started taking it. He's announced that he won't be playing next year. He hasn't announced his retirement yet. But this is such a strange situation. And we have even older NHL players who've retired come out and say that this is a thing. I had it too. I just didn't talk about it.
Right.
What's your thoughts on this?
Well, to be honest, it's kind of one of those really heartfelt situations, kind of tugs at the heartstrings a little bit because Hossa is a stand-up guy, an amazing player, and he brings so much to the Chicago Blackhawks. Man, they are really going to miss him next year.
He is beloved by the fans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously you have to think of your health first, right? And if this is his way to potentially overcome this with different medications, different treatment methods, that sort of thing, then this is what he needs to do. Because if you don't have your health, you have nothing. And that's the way You got to look at it. And I'm sure everybody, when they hang up their skates and they walk away from the NHL, they want to be healthy enough in order to enjoy their life after hockey. So if this is what he has to do, this is what he has to do.
Yeah, big time respect for him for taking the time to handle this properly so late in his career, potentially maybe not even returning. So big respect to him. And I assume that there'll be some kind of celebration was the wrong word there. At the beginning of the season when they do like ceremonies before the games and stuff, I have a feling that they're going to walk Hossa out in the ice and he's going to get a standing ovation.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think he'd still be around in some capacity with the organization. So, yeah. I mean, he lives and breathes the Chicago Blackhawks, and he's such a fan favorite too. I could see him making plenty of appearances and so on, just being around the boys, being around the team. As a player, you just always want to be there. And I think he'll still be a part of that stuff, but unfortunately, he just won't be in the practices, in the games, or anything like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't think celebration was the wrong word. I think that was the right word.
Celebration, yeah.
I think they'll celebrate if he comes back and can't play or whatever. I think they will celebrate him as a person, as someone that's been involved with that organization. He is very well liked. Like if you read up on I was looking into the Taves situation a while ago when people were saying he was overpaid and people were listing all of the players, and Hossa was one of the players that pretty much everyone was happy with what he was doing for the team and what he was paid and who he is as a person. So, but I want to ask you, that was the first I've ever heard of other people saying that they also had that skin condition. Is that something related to sports, like in hockey with I don't know, whether it be sweat or whatever, or is that just something that some people get?
I'm not exactly sure. I know it's equipment related, so I don't know if it's the material that they use or just like the rubbing up against and down. I don't know enough about it, but it's interesting to see people come out now and say that they've had it, and almost like they were embarrassed to talk about it or something before. But I mean, I understand it, but it's probably makes Hossa feel better that other people have gone through this as well, and now they're speaking up about it. So I guess celebration was the right word. You're celebrating his career, his like
you're not celebrating the fact that he can't play. Yeah, you're celebrating him as a person.
I didn't want to make it seem like that. Yeah. Okay, next on the list, Mike Smith trade. We didn't talk about this, and we should have. That was 100% my fault. I apologize for that. But let's talk about it now. Mike Smith goes from Arizona to Calgary.
I think Mike Smith is going to kill it in Calgary, in my opinion. Calgary definitely needed a number one netminder, and Mike Smith's going to be their guy.
Mike Smith is an amazing goalie, and he's never had a team in front of him who can back him up or play really, really well in front of him. Calgary might be that team, so it's going to be... I mean, Mike Smith has been with the Arizona Coyotes for a while now. It's going to be interesting to see him in Calgary.
Yeah, I'm very anxious to see him in Calgary. And, as I just said, I think he's going to kill it in Calgary. I think this is going to completely turn his career around. And I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, in my opinion.
So that means that the Calgary Flames have some decisions to make with Elliott, I think Elliott's a UFA this year?
Yeah, I'm not sure, actually.
And Johnson as well. So they've got three goalies there. Someone's need to go out, and Mike Smith just came in, so he ain't going anywhere.
Yeah,
so.
He's not going anywhere because obviously they wanted him there.
Yeah,
so
I assume Elliott might be on his way out, maybe in the East Coast, maybe Philadelphia. Who knows?
Did Mike Smith make one of the Canadian teams? He did, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
He was the third.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
It wasn't the last year; it was the year before that. I think.
Yeah, he did.
And I think this just goes back to the point you made a while ago, saying that Arizona's just shaking everything up right now.
Yeah, and I mean, they have to. Look at what they've done over the past 10, 15 years. They've made the playoffs, once, twice? I mean, they got to do something. Whether fans agree with it or not, at this point, any change is good change, I think.
Yep, I think they're doing all the right moves, in my opinion.
All right, last on the list. I'm not sure how long this podcast has been so far, but...
We're looking at about 15 minutes or so.
15 minutes until wrap up?
50 minutes so far.
All right, so we got about 10 minutes. Let's talk about the Duchene rumors. Now, these have been going on since maybe even the beginning of the season. And during the trade deadline period, there were so many rumors about Duchene going everywhere. But the asking price was too much. He wanted a first-round pick. He wanted yada Sakic because he's... I don't use the word delusional, but... I don't know. He's asking a little much, in my opinion, and the rumors continue as of today. He's going to Washington. He's going to the Islanders. He's going to Philadelphia. He's going to Montreal. It's just endless amounts of teams and rumors. And I don't know what to believe, what not to believe. What's your thoughts?
Well, after the abysmal year that the Colorado Avalanche had, I think there's a lot of franchises out there that are looking to take advantage of their crappy situation and saying, hey, we'll take Duchene from you, but here's what we'll give you. And at the end of the day, I think Joe Sakic, in my opinion, thinks Duchene is better than what he actually is.
Yep.
And he looks at Duchene as this amazing franchise superstar. And yeah, Duchene is a great player. That's no knock on him. But he's not a franchise player, in my opinion. Like, okay, if I had Duchene up against Crosby, who would you take? If I had Duchene up against Malkin, Duchene up against Tavares.
Well, even look at McKinnon
on
the same team.
Well, yeah, to me, McKinnon, that's the guy I would be looking at saying, okay, he's my franchise player.
Yeah, exactly.
Duchene would just be a component in order to complement McKinnon. But
there's no knock on Duchene. Duchene's a very, very, very good player. He would fit in with literally any team in the National Hockey League. It's just a matter of that price. And I don't think anyone's going to pay it, to be honest.
Well, if I had to pick a franchise to see Duchene go to, I think he would excel in Toronto.
Yeah?
If he went to the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think that would just kind of give them that extra push in the depth department and make them a little bigger of a threat moving forward in the Eastern Conference. But again, I think Joe Sakic is just overanalyzing Duchene's worth. And because of that, I don't know if Duchene's going to go anywhere. And at this point, with the trade rumors going on for so long in the abysmal season with the Colorado Avalanche, does the guy even want to play there anymore?
Yeah.
Because, his name is just constantly out there. And as a player, I would get sick and tired of that after a while.
Yeah.
I would just want to focus on playing hockey. And with these trade rumors around Duchene never ending, like, my goodness, like his relationship with Sakic, like, how is it now? I mean, we don't know. It could be tarnished, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to tarnish his, just livelihood in Colorado. And I think it's going to affect his playing ability, in my opinion.
It's kind of, I don't want to say same situation, but Galchenyuk is kind of going through the same thing in Montreal. Obviously, being a Canadiens fan, I follow them the most, so I know most about the team. But Galchenyuk has been in the rumors for the last couple of months, even around the trade deadline. He's right now, I think he's probably one of the top 3 names to be potentially traded. It's being a player and knowing that you might get traded any second, even in the off season, but especially during the season. How frustrating is that? Like, knowing that you might get traded the next day, would you still give 110% to your team, knowing that they potentially don't want you? It's
hard to bury something like that. I mean, you're hitting the ice for your game, and then you just heard about all these trade rumors around you. I mean, how do you just drop all that and focus on playing hockey for the team that you're currently a part of? It's not an easy thing to do, and I think that's going to really affect Duchene moving forward unless he's dealt sometime in the offseason.
Yeah.
But with the way Sakic's analyzing him as, for his total worth, I don't think Duchene's ever going to be dealt anywhere.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I feel bad for him, like I just said, but he's making $5 million or something like that. I don't feel that bad for him.
Yeah, that's a lot more than I make. I know that. Hey,
I was looking up stuff on my phone, and I wasn't actually listening to a lot of what you guys said. Did you guys talk about Duchene to the Islanders at all, or no?
Yeah.
Okay, so apparently it was killed, like it wasn't going to happen, but apparently it's back on the table as of right now. So
there's just been a trade. Announcing live on the podcast for the first time, the Flames acquired defenseman Travis Hamonic from the Islanders.
Okay. And that's kind of the
wow, that's good.
I don't know what the exchange is. It's not announced yet.
I really like Hamonic. I really do, because he's a very gritty defenseman.
I think he's going to fit in really well in Calgary.
Even for his size, and to me, he's that perfect Brian Burke guy.
Yeah,
he's that type of style that Burke just loves. And I mean, just last night I was reading all these rumors that Toronto was really interested in Hamonic, and he could end up there.
Yeah.
So hey, this is really really nice to see. I mean, their back end now is looking completely different. That sounds horrible. With the change in goal with Mike Smith, and now with Hamonic coming in, I mean, things are looking up in Calgary, in my opinion, from the blue line back.
They needed to make some changes after this season. So it's interesting to see that trade go down live. We can talk about it right away. That's pretty cool.
Awesome.
But it's unfortunate that we don't know what's going on in return, because we could have different opinions depending on who's going in return.
And that's one of the kind of downsides of the podcast. This doesn't get released until tomorrow, so this will all be done for the most part. So there could be a lot happening after we leave here, because this is a Saturday morning for us. So
Exactly, yeah.
But I just wanted to mention to you guys something I seen too is Arizona traded their 35th pick to Philly for their 44th, 75th, and 108th pick. So
That's a strange.
Philly really wanted to move up, and they took a guy named Isaac Ratcliffe, which I don't know anything about, but they are willing to give up 3 picks for him. So that's very interesting.
That's such a strange trade. I don't 3 picks for, I don't know. Yeah, it's
almost kind of a gamble pick. I mean, when you start really getting down, around 100th pick or whatever, I mean, the scouts would definitely know these players. I mean, that's their job. But I mean, how many superstars have you seen come out of a draft, based on the 5th or 6th round?
It's so rare.
It is.
Pavelski's an example of that, and there's other examples of it too.
Patrick Hornquist taken last overall, 2005.
Yeah.
So
it happens. It's just
it does happen for sure.
There's no way you can predict it. There's no way. Whatsoever.
You don't really know if you've won this trade until you've had those 3 picks in your lineup, seen what they can do. And then perhaps several years down the road, you could start to analyze the situation of, did we win this trade or did we lose?
Yeah, people were asking my opinion on the Stepan Ranta trade to Arizona in exchange for the D'Angelo in the 7th overall pick. They're like, who won this trade? I'm like, it's a 7th overall pick. We won't know for a couple of years. It depends on how that 7th pick, the 7th overall pick develops. We don't know. I can't answer that right now. So.
Yeah. In several years, you would know, though.
Exactly. Give me a couple years, and then I'll
play the waiting game.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I think that just about wraps this one up.
Yeah.
So
I'm good. I don't have anything else to add. My goodness, I think we covered everything.
There's lots to talk about, but yeah.
Okay. So hopefully you guys like this video thing. We like I said, we can't screw up, or when we do screw up, it's out there. The 4 million years.
4 million years.
4 million years is out there.
If
we weren't recording video, you would have never heard that. So I guess.
Hopefully someone chuckled at home, but
I did.
I
think as the more of these we do, I think we're getting a little better at it.
Oh, definitely.
Because I mean, the first one was just like, I don't even want to go back and play that and listen to it. Just I'd be so scared to see how bad it was. But
it's just like my earlier videos. It's just cringeworthy going back to see them. Ugh.
So. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys. If you have feedback, Twitter, Post Show.
Gmail, Post Show.
And we have a special announcement to make in a sec. But for those of you watching on YouTube, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.